Let's see what book I got today. How to Train Your Dragon. I forgot I bought it for my son. Dear Lord, it absolutely still smells of paraffin in here. You remember yesterday we ran this? Okay, so bad news. I broke my rule. My rule, my own personal rule, is I either buy the best of something, which usually means it's over-engineered, overpriced, just over everything, but I know it will last me forever and do the job better than I need, or I don't buy anything at all. It's either the best or nothing. No middle ground. A $12 cheap and nasty multimeter. I have to explain. I really do need to explain. You probably don't care if I give you an explanation or not. I don't care. I'm gonna give you an explanation. I need to explain it to myself at least. Here's the thing. Wait there. This is the screen from the jet engine. In the last couple of videos I mentioned how it's flickering and fading and just isn't quite working right. I contacted the company. They want to know, is the battery pack that's going into it, is it really feeding 6 volts? I don't know. I've got 4 AA batteries connected together. Each one is 1.5 volts. 1.5 times 4, 6. But I can't be 100% sure. The only way I can be 100% sure is if I use a multimeter. I want to get this jet engine on the go. I want to get this screen sorted. I live in a small town that there's no really good quality multimeters here. I'm gonna have to order online, which is gonna take a number of days. Plus I want to research and find the best one I can. So it will take even longer, really. $12. I spend more than that in the cafe every day. It's not a big deal. All I need is for it to reach some volts, that's it. So I broke my rule because time is the critical factor here. That's it, time and just getting on with the job. I will buy a better over-the-top multimeter down the line. I just need to get through today. Right, that's my confession over. Now, truthfully, I have no idea if those are in the right holes. I just kind of took a guess. I really don't know that much about this stuff. I do know that you got a black cable, you put the black one to it, and you got a red cable, you put the red one to it. .51 volts. That should really be good enough. I know just enough about electronics that if the battery says 1.5 volts, you're not going to get 1.5 volts. That's the information that the company will want to know about this screen. They want to know the voltage going to it. 5.5, I'm pretty sure they'll be happy with. Now the other thing they wanted to see was what happened to the actual screen. They want to see the flickering and the fading and that kind of thing. You know, they want me to send a video. Fair enough, definitely fair enough. So, gotta do that now. It's already quite difficult to read the numbers now and it's only been like 30 seconds. So I just got to record that for a little while. You know what? I want to make absolutely sure that it's not something as simple as the batteries. So I just measured the voltage there again, 5.28. It was 5.51 before. So after connecting it to the jet engine, to light up the screen for a couple of minutes, the voltage has dropped. Now, I used to work in IT. I've got a little bit of an advantage in terms of going about troubleshooting problems, because the one thing you learn in IT, it took me like at least a year and a half to learn it, just before I left. And that was that you can't make any assumptions about the problem. You have to go into it with an unbelievably open mind. So to completely eliminate that it might be something as simple as the batteries, I'm gonna go and buy new ones. You know, it's funny, while I was driving to go and pick up, I started getting that feeling of, maybe it's not the screen, maybe it's the batteries. Maybe 5.5 or 5.28 volts is just too low. Maybe this type of battery pack, where I use 4 AA batteries instead of like a rechargeable dedicated RC battery pack, maybe it just doesn't work. You know, maybe it's not the screen, just because the screen is showing the result. Yeah. 6.3 something whatever volts. You know, earlier how I was going on about how I knew electronics and how I knew that the voltage was lower than it should. I know nothing. Why do I kid myself on sometimes? I mentioned in a previous video that I've got a degree in electronics. I got a master's degree. It was a joint degree between electronics and software, computer programming. So I know nothing about electronics. I don't know how I got through that degree, and it wasn't a Mickey Mouse university either. It was a fairly good one in Scotland. Electronics just... So obviously, what I need to do now is test this screen again. Let's place bets. Will it or will it not work? What do you think? Now, I'll be honest here, my ego is taking a battering today. It really is. But let's just move on from this. There's nothing to see here. Let's just move on. So what I'm going to do now is try and set up the radio properly. It's not set up. I've got the throttle set up, but not what's called the trim. I don't quite know how to do that, but it can't be that tough. So I just went out to the local sort of hobby shop there. Not really so much a hobby shop, it sells like slot car, Skeletrix type stuff. I wanted to see if you had a servo. The company that sold me the jet engine recommended getting a servo. As I mentioned earlier, I've got the throttle set up but not the trim, and I don't know which button is the trim, and it's very hard to tell. There was no servo, but I'm gonna fiddle around a bit more. That's like my only skill, fiddling around a bit more. Okay, well maybe I'm not that good at fiddling around after all. I spent a while on it. I checked my phone for a while looking at the manual, like looking online at the manual for the radio. You don't get a manual with it in this digital age. You got to either print it out, look at it on a CD-ROM or on your phone. Can't find anything there either. But I don't want to run the engine because the cool down sequence isn't happening. And that will, as far as I'm aware, damage the engine. It's about 500 or 600 degrees when the engine's running really fast, but it's about 900 degrees when it's sitting there idling around 43,000 RPM or whatever it is in the startup phase. I don't want to risk it, so I'm gonna wait until I can get a servo. Might be a day or two, might not be till next week. So getting closer to building this jet-powered skateboard. However, I've been thinking, if I put a jet engine on that skateboard, it's a board that's for the road. I've got to use it on the road, or more likely, an airstrip. You can't just blast through the town on a turbine-powered skateboard. It's just not practical, really. However, I live 90 seconds walk from a beach that's 5 miles long. It's when the tide goes out, it's got flat, hard, compacted sand. So, here's what I was thinking. Take a look at this. Is that not a clever idea? An all-terrain mountain board type off-road thing that I could put on the sand. That way, when I actually get the turbine on the skateboard, or maybe off-road board, I can actually use it. It's not just an experiment that goes, oh yeah, you know, I did it for the sake of doing it, which is kind of what I planned, but I can actually use it. I can blast up and down the beach. Those are what my thoughts are. I would be curious as to what you think. Now, I talked briefly earlier about ego and how my ego got a bit of a beating today with, you know, all the ridiculous things I said about the batteries and, you know, how I really don't know what I'm talking about, but I like to think I do. And I've got a quote for you today that certainly suits me down to the ground. I can identify with it for sure. It's by John Lennon, and he said, "Part of me suspects that I'm a loser, and the other part of me thinks that I'm God Almighty."